Welcome to Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. Last month, I presented a conversation with Patty Nicolari, who is spearheading the effort to open Proud Academy in New Haven. Proud Academy will be a charter school designed to provide an open and affirming atmosphere for queer kids and their allies. On January 26th, Nicolari hosted an event at Southern Connecticut State University celebrating National School Choice Week. The evening was a showcase for the how and the why of this new school. Leaders from the state, local, and national levels spoke of their support. Students spoke and performed in behalf of the effort. What follows is a series of excerpts from the evening. Hope you enjoy it.
So I am Patty Nicolari. My pronouns are she, her. A warm welcome to all of you. As the founder and executive director of Proud Academy, I thank National School Choice Week for putting on this event. And we are all here celebrating something that's happening across the nation. And so we are excited to be here celebrating Proud Academy and a school of choice for New Haven. We are here to tell you a little bit about the School of Choice, Proud Academy, which stands for Proudly Respecting Our Unique Differences. It will be a school that's safe and affirming, an environment where youth can thrive. Proud Academy will be the first of its kind in the state and fifth in the nation. And we are thrilled to have parents and students searching and reaching out for us. Some of them have been as far away as Colorado and Florida, thinking of moving to Connecticut because we are a safe state. They're sensing the urgency that schools are not safe where they are, especially in places like Florida. So everybody's looking for a safe and affirming place, and Proud Academy will absolutely offer that. And we've also partnered with, we are thrilled to say, Southern Connecticut State University. We know that that is home to President Joe, as he is known, and he welcomed the idea of partnering with Proud Academy. We also have a team of trustees and volunteers that understands the urgency, and they've rolled up their sleeves, and our orbit is always growing. So the first person I would like to call up tonight is the amazing Dr. Barbara Duncan, and she is the Proud Academy president.
Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Barbara Duncan, and I am honored to be the president of the board of directors for Proud Academy. We're here tonight to celebrate National School Choice Week. Every year across the country, at the end of January, we celebrate National School Choice Week. And this is to show that students have the right to go to the school that best fits their needs. In Connecticut, we have many school options. We have traditional public schools, public charter schools, public magnet schools, private schools, online schools, and homeschooling. And soon, we will be having another school to complement the landscape, Proud Academy, as an LGBTQ-friendly school that recognizes diversity and celebrates it.
After a brief video and an introduction of the board of directors, Patty then called on Dr. Joe Bertolino, the president of SCSU.
Thank you, Patty. And can we give Patty and her team a round of applause for their amazing work? So, welcome to Southern. We're delighted that you're here, as you already heard. My name is Joe Bertolino. I am the president of Southern, and I am proud, being that we're using the word proud, I am proud not only to be president of Southern, but I am proud to be an openly gay university president in the United States, quite frankly. We are, as you know, the public regional university of the greater New Haven area, the southern part of this state, and we take that responsibility very seriously. In fact, you will see, as you walk through our campus, a number of these signs that speak to our core value, and that is the value of social justice, ensuring that every member of our community is treated with dignity, respect, kindness, compassion, and civility. Now, I like to say that we are an aspiring social justice institution because, quite frankly, the work is hard and it is never ending. So when Patty came to see me about this partnership, naturally, we were excited about the possibilities. And so I've been sitting here and had the opportunity to chat a little bit with our new state treasurer, Eric Wilson. Eric, it's good to see you. Welcome. I have been thinking about possibilities. To the students in this room, I want to share with you that when I began my career, I was told, and I grew up during a time when many of my friends were dying of HIV and AIDS. When I became a higher education professional, I was told to stay closeted. I was told there was the gay glass ceiling, that you would never become a dean or a vice president, let alone a president. And so, at first, I believed that, until an individual by the name Chuck came to me and said, I understand that someday you might be interested in being a college president. He goes, well, I am the president of Roosevelt University, and I'm the first out gay president in the United States. And I have formed a group. That group consisted of 10 out university and college presidents from the LGBTQ community. It was a first. It was in 2010, by the way. And for me, the mentors in that group were vital to my future. They set the stage for, and in every way possible, showed me that this was something I could do and that others could do. So to the students in this room, there are a lot of individuals in this room who want to serve as mentors, who want to serve as your educators, and who are working to ensure that you have a bright path forward in your future. When I became a president in 2012, I was one of 25. Today, there are over 300 LGBTQ plus out university and college presidents in the United States. And so I want Patty to know that as you engage in this work, know that Southern's support for the Proud Academy will be unwavering. We will do everything possible to help in connecting our faculty and our students and our staff to volunteer, to be mentors, to provide support, to provide whatever we can in terms of program development, community development, and so on. Ultimately, my hope is that we will continue to be good stewards of place. Southern is a place where we care about our students. What we do here is meaningful. What Patty and her team are about to do and are engaged in is meaningful. It matters. To the students in this room, you matter, and I don't want you to forget that. You deserve to be treated with dignity, respect, kindness, compassion, and civility. And Southern is happy to partner with you to ensure that everyone in this room is treated in that way.
Kevin Jennings was the founder of GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. So Kevin was called elsewhere and couldn't be here tonight, but we look forward to joining him in the future. Kevin is known as the czar of bullying. When he worked at the Obama administration, he formed that title because he was so passionate about youth not being bullied. He formed the first Gender Sexuality Alliance. Back in the day, they called it the Gay Straight Alliance, but it has now changed. Kevin was relentlessly bullied as a freshman and sophomore, and he ended up enrolling in a different school in his junior and senior years, where he obviously thrived, ended up at Harvard. He went on to found GLSEN and help create safe and affirming schools. and today he is the CEO of Lambda Legal, an organization that advocates for the LGBTQ community in federal and state courts. Here is just a little snapshot of what Kevin Jennings brings to the table.
On the 15th grade, when I was in high school, I refused to go back to school because I'd been bullied so relentlessly in 9th grade. And I'd gone to a counselor and asked him to do something about it. He asked which kids were doing it. And when I told him, he said, "Oh, those are all good kids. I'm sure they don't mean any harm." So I just didn't feel like I could even go back to school because I knew it would start again, and I knew no one was going to look out for me. Now, fortunately, my mother got me transferred to another school, and I went on to graduate from high school and college, and I then became a high school history teacher, which I was for 10 years. But I never forgot what it felt like to sit in that counselor's office and be told that my problem wasn't really a big deal. So if there's one message I have for educators, it is, this is a big deal. And what kids are doing is watching you for clues about how much you care about them. If you're silent or you do nothing when bullying occurs, what you're doing is saying that it's okay. And this reminds me of the words of the Nobel laureate and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel, who once said, "Silence helps the tormentor, never the tormented." So there's no neutral ground on this. If you see bullying occurring, you need to do something about it. You need to intervene and make clear it is not acceptable in your classroom. And if you notice that there are sudden changes in behaviors in some of your students, like a kid who once participated in class a great deal is not participating, it's important to maybe pull them aside and ask what's going on, because we know that most bullying happens out of the view of adults, and that kid may have changed their behavior because of something that's happening in the hallway or the bathroom or on the bus. So as a former teacher myself, I want every teacher to know bullying is real. 1 in 3 kids experience it. Kids who get bullied do more poorly in school, are more likely to drop out of school, are more likely to try and take their own lives. This is a serious problem. It's an education problem, and it's a problem we have got to take seriously and do something about.
We are the school that Kevin describes and so much more. Educators have a responsibility to nurture students, to have compassion for themselves and others regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Despite this, though, many try, most schools fall short. I know many of you here tonight are all too familiar with school climates that leave your child behind. So that's the message that we hope to share with our youth. You're not wrong. And while many youth are out, confidence doesn't come easily at that age. And we know statistics from GLSEN and the amazing Trevor Project highlights that schools are still not safe. Now, GLSEN does surveys, school climate surveys, every 2 years, and you would think that it would get better and better, but we're not there yet. Faculty, staff, and administrators also need a safe place. A friend of mine is a teacher. She's legally married to another woman. And the principal came to her and said, "You cannot discuss that in class." Even though another student may have said, "You can't have 2 daddies," when she said, "Well, yes, you can." She was told, do not continue that conversation with your students. So we still have a ways to go with embracing all peoples. We are simply here to offer a choice. Students need a stress-free environment in order to learn. And when they experience trauma in school, the body releases the chemical cortisol, which blocks the learning for 20 minutes up to 3 hours. And our children cannot learn under these conditions, and that is just unacceptable. And we also believe that there is healing power in art, and we plan to have all sorts of space and creative expression for theater and painting. And we understand that social-emotional learning is a key component to our school. We know that many youth coming to our school have been traumatized, and that component is critical to have. We're blessed to have Yale in our backyard because they have the Center for Emotional Intelligence. They have the Yale Gender Study. As we continue to build a school, we are looking at accreditation. We're working with professionals on that, transportation, and nutritious programs to best meet the needs of all of our students. We have an amazing youth advisory council spearheaded by Brandon Iovine. We will get the voice of youth involved in this whole decision-making process. And of course, creating and maintaining an environment free of bullying and harassment is a top priority. And we know many of you are considering Proud Academy because your child is being bullied. You may have a cis or het child with 2 dads or 2 moms, and if you come to Proud Academy, we just get that. Families are diverse in many ways, and we are here for all of those families and their allies. But I would like to bring up right now the amazing Devon Kennedy, and Devon is from Elephant in the Room. Devon actually won a gold medal for boxing champion in 2001, Devon? Oh yeah, let's give Devon a round of applause here. Come on up.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am tremendously proud of what Proud Academy is doing. First, let me tell you a little bit about Elephant in the Room Boxing Club. That title in itself says a whole lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term elephant in the room, but for those of you that are not, it simply means there's an issue or there's something that we're all aware of, but no one's doing anything about it. And so when that comes to mind, I think about Proud Academy. There's an issue that we all know that our children are experiencing in school, and there's not a lot being done about it, right? So I'm here as one of the board of directors for Proud Academy, as a woman who's been in a same-sex marriage for 14 years, loving relationship. I happen to have my, I'm still learning here, I would say my niece who's transitioning. She's a trans woman who is made the decision that this was the best thing for her. And it's very close and near and dear to my heart because this is my family and I love her. And whatever choice she makes is hers, right? So it's a learning lesson for me. I'm kind of old school. I come, I've been out since 19 years old. So things were a little different here. We didn't have trans or it was a lot quieter back then. So the terms and things like that, I'm learning. But what I didn't mention is Jameer is also a boxer. And he is competing this Saturday in the Golden Glove Childhood Championship in Springfield, Massachusetts. So now we actually are gonna do a little demonstration. Jameer is gonna do some jump rope, which is one of the most challenging exercises that boxers do, that any of you can do. It's a great exercise for overall training. While Jameer is jumping, I'm gonna tell you that we have a lot of students that come to the gym. The boxing gym is a safe haven. And we have a lot of kids who are being bullied for one reason or another, whether it be someone doesn't like them in the school or whether it be for their sexuality, whatever the case may be. But when they come to Elephant in the Room Boxing Club, they're safe there. And I'm pretty confident that Proud Academy will be somewhat of the same thing, a refuge for children who are not happy or comfortable or who don't feel safe. This is an amazing, amazing project. All right, Jameer, show them what you got. So boxing, keep going. So jump rope is pretty important in boxing. It works every muscle in your body, even your calves. So if you simply had a jump rope at home, a lot too in the boxing gym, this is a way to protect yourself. It's sort of a self-defense as well. So if there's students who are, we don't condone violence at all, but if someone's hurting you, you have a right to protect yourself. And so this is what boxing does to allow you to feel comfortable that you're safe and that if you're being harmed, that you know what to do. All right, Jameer, pick it up. Give him a little something, a little speed. There we go. Let's go. All right? So this rope is weighted. It has weights in the handles. A little faster, Jameer. Come on, a little faster. There we go. There we go. We have a few minutes more. I want to introduce you to John Lon. So John Lon came to the gym over a year ago. By the way, the gym has been open. It's a nonprofit for over 12 years, serving the children of New Haven and abroad, actually. So John Lon came and said that he was a gay male and he have not found a gym where he felt accepted or comfortable. And when he came to Elephant in the Room, he said this is the first gym where I actually feel accepted. And that's what this whole thing is about, being in an environment where you're accepted. Right, John Lon? So John Lon was sort of an introvert, but he's improved. He's come out of his shell a little bit, and we're going to do a little pad work with you to show you a little bit what John Lon can do too. So he's comfortable now. He can protect himself, and he's in a good place. Right? Can you guys still hear me? Yeah. Right. John Lon is southpaw, which means he's in the left-handed stance, right? All right, so he kind of, it's a little awkward. So we'll go with it because he's lefty. So jab, jab, good jab, jab it down, good, jab it down, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, think somebody's gonna bother John? I don't think John Lon has much to worry about now. Do you?
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Brandon Ivey and I go by he, they pronouns, and I am a master's student here at Southern, graduated with a degree in English, and I'm also the graduate intern in our Sexuality and Gender Equality Center right down the hall. So as a member of the board of directors, I always think about the youth that we're going to serve, and in my role here at Southern, I oftentimes interact with a lot of youth who have come from a variety of different backgrounds, and those were particularly challenging for a lot of queer people. So it is my distinct honor to welcome our special guest, Taryn Degnan, to come up and share some words about his story growing up as a queer individual. Taryn.
Hello, my name's Taryn. I'm a trans guy. It's been 2 years since I first socially transitioned and about 1.5 years since I started to physically transition. I came out fully to everyone on Election Day of 2020. As a trans person, it is hard to find supportive people. It's very easy to be put in an environment where you don't feel safe and supported. The same goes with anyone from the LGBTQ community and anyone from any minority in general. If you are anything but the social norm and what's considered socially acceptable, you've most likely experienced some sort of hate, especially in a school environment, which is why I'm so thrilled that my mom was able to connect with Patty, allowing me to connect with Patty. It was nice to get to know her and some of the other people on the board of Proud Academy. I would like to share my experience as a trans guy in high school. This is my personal experience. Everyone's experience is different, but this is just stuff that I went through. I was the first person to openly transition at my high school, and since then, my everyday experience at school has been people throwing slurs at me, taking pictures of me in the hall to make fun of me for, and a lot worse. For example, one time I was chased down the hall by 2 boys who tried to follow me into the bathroom. They didn't realize that I had ducked into the women's, not the men's. I could hear them through the wall, opening star doors, asking each other, "Where did that freak go?" Another instance, this happened the day I came out to my classmates. One kid immediately went, "I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that." That was just detrimental. And that goes with being ignored or dead named or misgendered, and whether it be on purpose or by accident. For me, at least, every time someone uses the wrong pronoun, even if they apologize after, I still feel a deep sadness and my head goes into a spiral and I start to think, what am I doing that's not helping me pass? Is it my voice? Is it my face? How I dress? The feeling of not being able to pass or be accepted as your preferred gender can make such a large impact on people. It can lead to the simplest life tasks being difficult, for example, using the bathroom. People shouldn't need to be afraid to use the bathroom. That's just ridiculous. People like me would straight up hold it in all day to avoid getting weird judgmental stares or hate in general thrown at us. This is especially prominent in school environments with kids who simply don't understand nor want to understand. There needs to be more schools like Proud Academy in general because the environment here that we're creating is understanding and accepting, not only to trans people like me, but to people who face discrimination based on their race, sexuality, birth sex, disability, etc. I honestly feel like the school will allow kids like me to be their truest selves without any judgment or discrimination based on the aspects of their lives they can't control. Thank you.
To give youth a voice, to stand up and feel good about who they are, matters. Thank you, Taryn. So there are many firsts associated with Proud Academy. Some people have mentioned first already. Joe Bertolino was a first. I was the first to come out as an LGBTQ educator in my hometown. A board member, John Rose, was a first. In 1964 at Dartmouth, he was one of 2 people of color in the graduating class. In 1969, he became the first black lawyer in a major law firm in Connecticut. As former corporation counsel for the city of Hartford and the city of New Haven, another first. A first lawyer of color to serve on the Connecticut Judicial Selection Committee. I welcome the amazing attorney John Rose.
Hello. This says I'm giving a welcome, but I'm actually going to introduce a very special person. Several decades ago, Connecticut did a first in the nation. It elected a black man to the state treasurership. That man was Jerry Lamb. Later, Denise Napier served 19 years as the first black woman to be the state treasurer. Now, as of November 2022, the state has elected the first openly gay African American to statewide office and kept in place the black state treasurership. Eric Russell is a local product. He grew up in the Elm City. His parents owned a convenience store in Delhi, actually I've just learned, in 2 different hoods, as it were, The Hill and Dixwell. Eric graduated UConn Law and joined the eminent Bridgeport law firm Pullman and Cumley, where he rose to partner. Also, he's been, or has been, the chair of the Connecticut Bar Association's LGBTQ section. Eric was also elected vice chair of the Connecticut Democratic Party. Eric was sworn in on January 4.
Good evening, everyone. It's always energizing being around so many young people and those committed to helping them. Particularly, Patty, I just want to give a shout out for your energy and vision with this school, putting in the work of recruiting so many like-minded partners, like the folks here at Southern, to really make it a reality. Being yourself is a remarkable thing. It sounds so easy, but it never is, especially for young people and especially for members of the LGBTQ community. And I just want to say thank you to Taryn for sharing your story. I know how difficult that probably was to do. But the reality is it takes practice, and it takes time, and it takes some help. That's why the Proud Academy is so important, and the work it's doing is so impactful. Every kid deserves to feel accepted, safe, and totally themselves. Without structures in place to provide those supports, the consequences can be tragic. Each kid that is let down, abandoned, or falls through the cracks of the systems built to protect them makes everything we do more fragile and unreliable. Our collective commitment to providing opportunities for kids in Connecticut doesn't have an asterisk. It's universal. So thank you. Thank you to the staff and supporters of the Proud Academy for honoring the commitment. Thank you to the students here for doing the same. Every time I get around young people, I still consider myself to be pretty young, I'm overwhelmed by optimism. As your state treasurer, I know it's my job to think every day about what the future of Connecticut will look like. Sometimes that means thinking about awesome, exciting, what most people consider pretty boring things like sustainable pension investments and bonding of infrastructure. But it also means I get to think about what the world should look like when our now students are in charge. It's my job to make sure that Connecticut you inherit is better, fairer than it is now, and to make sure young people have the opportunities they need to get ahead. For the students here, it's your job to be ready when that opportunity presents itself. The young people I meet are so well informed, and I've seen this crisscrossing the state through the most recent campaign cycle. Well informed, well intentioned, and passionate about improving their schools and their communities. Our students are our activists, and it's really awesome to see. For many LGBTQ kids and adults, frankly, being your authentic self is its own form of activism, and sometimes an act of resistance on its own. Having a place like Proud Academy where you get to support each other in that process is such a gift. When I was growing up in New Haven, as John mentioned, my parents owned a small convenience store on Congress Avenue. And it's where I learned about the basics of finance and about responsibility and hard work. But it's also where I learned about community. I learned that you needed to respect and care about people in your orbit, and we all had to look out for each other. I knew that I was different, and what I also knew was that I had parents that loved and supported me regardless of who I was or who I chose to love. But I also know that there were many people around me that did not have that support. I honestly don't have a harrowing story of overcoming high school bullying or even an aha moment when I came out until after I met my husband. But again, I had the support of my parents, whose hard work and sacrifice allowed me to become the first in my family to graduate from college. And with that, I had opportunities that, again, a lot of people around me did not. But I also didn't see myself reflected in community. I didn't have a world full of gay role models or resources like the Proud Academy to help me truly open up and be comfortable with myself. And it was really challenging to think about a future where I'm looking to go to law school or to be a partner in a law firm, or that I could be out and in politics when I didn't see that reflected in the communities around me. When I got to law school, when I got to college, I was really fortunate that I had a professor named Mike Lawler, who was a brilliant lawyer and happened to be a powerful lawmaker at the time. And it wasn't until I was about halfway through my first semester in his class that I found out that he was gay. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of being in rooms where real change is being made without having to compromise or ignore certain parts of myself. After law school, I took a role at the law firm that I ended up working for, and that's when I decided to come out. I was a summer associate, and I needed to know. I needed to know that before I began my career in law, that I would be able to do it as my true, genuine self. And I wanted to make sure that the firm that I was working with would support me in all that I did. At the same time, I began trying to figure out how to use my legal and financial skills that I had developed to help people in my community. I started that by mentoring high school students and college students, particularly from the LGBTQ community and for minority communities. As a law student, I represented people through UConn Law's low-income tax clinic. I interned for the Connecticut Legal Rights Project. And I also got a taste of state government and interning in the legal office for then Governor Dan Malloy. That intersection of public service and the laws that shape our government was where I knew I belonged. But I figured I'd be doing it as a lawyer. The opportunity to run for treasurer snuck up on me and was not necessarily planned. In my legal career, I'd specialized in big financial projects, and I'd worked with the treasurer's office in that process. And I knew how the office ran and how important it was and how it could be used to serve our community. So I decided to run. And I wanted to be treasurer because of its tremendous capacity to bring change about. The treasurer oversees tens of billions of dollars in investments and gets to make the companies that we're dealing with as a state, it gets to influence their behavior and make sure that their values as a company, as a business, align with our values as a state. And that comes into play when it comes to diversity and inclusion, with environmental issues, you name it. The office also helps families save for college and helps people find their money that gets lost in the banking system and helps to save the state money so that we can delegate more resources towards working families. The treasurer gets to prepare for the future and invest in our communities and come up with creative ways to do both of those things. I'm currently working on a program now called Connecticut Baby Bonds that Treasurer Wooden worked on prior to me that will set aside money for each baby in Connecticut born into poverty and invest it on their behalf so that when they become adults, they have funding to invest in college or to purchase a first home or to start a business. So I say this, that the office is not the flashiest position in government, that's for sure, but it's full of good, dedicated people doing really good work on behalf of taxpayers. And it's where I felt I belonged and where I know I have an opportunity to really contribute to the community. During the campaign, it was brought to my attention that if elected, I would be the first openly gay black statewide official elected in U.S. history. And to me, it was a surprising statistic in some ways because you feel as if we've made so much progress as a country, but it was the very stark reminder that we have so much work to do. It was also a reminder to me of so many people that really blazed trails before me and allowed not only for me to be able to run as is, but for me to even feel like it was an option. People like former Comptroller Kevin Lembo, who was the first openly gay statewide official in Connecticut, or Beth Bai, who was a state representative when she and her wife were the first couple married in the state of Connecticut, or my former boss when I was in the governor's legal counsel's office, now Justice Andrew McDonald, who both swore me in a few weeks ago, but also performed the marriage of my husband and I about 5.5 years ago. So it's the sacrifice and struggles of those before me that have allowed me to serve in this capacity. And in many ways, I think these victories speak to the character of our state. It's the people have made it clear that they want to support anyone with good ideas and with strong character and with proven qualifications. It also speaks to, again, the undeniable progress that we've made over the years. Being the first of anything, I think, comes with a responsibility, and it's one that I'm not hiding from. I know that it comes with an obligation to, first of all, not mess it up, because that sets all of us back. But it also comes with an obligation to encourage and elevate others, wondering if they can find their own path. There are people out there right now across the country and even inside governments that are fighting their own battles to undo this progress that we've made, to set us backwards. We've seen trans kids who are being vilified by the people elected to protect them. There are efforts in the courts right now to overturn LGBTQ rights, including same-sex marriage. And there's terrifying side effects of that work, as it's the lingering hatred that we see erupt in violence in the LGBTQ community, like we saw at the Pulse nightclub and more recently in Colorado Springs. It's more important now than ever that our leaders defend our common values and our equal rights to live safely as our authentic selves. So thankfully, we have that in Connecticut. I hope that everyone in this room, particularly the young folks, feel that support. Your state wants you here. We want you to succeed and feel safe here. We want you to feel like you can be yourself. And if you ever need help in that, we have your back. And it's organizations like Proud Academy that I think are really creating those safe spaces across the state. For the young folks, you're also already ahead of the game with the amazing resources that Proud Academy will be offering. And I hope you take full advantage of that support. You being here also comes with responsibility as well. As the school grows and expands, you are helping to lay the groundwork for success that future students will follow in your footsteps. So you're trailblazers in that right as well. So I'm so impressed by your commitment to being part of something necessary and important. And I'm certain that you will do great things, accomplish your personal goals, and build a community for yourself, each other, and those who need it most. Thanks.
My name is Chaz Carmen. I am the president of Ice the Beef here in New Haven. And I know you're probably wondering, like, Ice the Beef, you guys make burgers? No, the young people, what they call beef is when you have a problem amongst someone else, amongst each other. And what we do is we cool the beef off. We ice the beef, right? We mediate. We bring mentors. And we really stick with the young people and help them use their words and their compassion to work with each other. I'm a heterosexual male with a bisexual daughter. And I have 4 other goddaughters who are lesbian, pansexual, bisexual. See, Ice the Beef, we believe in one thing: one human race. To us, it doesn't matter. We are all human. So if you ever came to one of our programs, you would see all kinds of genders, non-genders, just people together, performing together, having fun together, protecting each other, one human race. There's many times in our society where we notice that. Remember quarantine? One human race. I want to take a moment around our country. You mentioned Pulse nightclub, Colorado Springs, all these mass shootings going on. We're one human race. There's so many things that we experience, all of us, and we separate ourselves. But in Ice to Beef, we don't do that. We're just one human race. So if I could for a moment, just a moment of silence for the inner city shootings, the recent mass shootings around the country, just one moment of silence. Thank you. Ice the Beef works with teenagers. Our main fight is gun violence, inner city gun violence, mass shootings. We fight for people to use their words and put down the guns. And we do it through youth, because they will change the future. They inherit it from us. So if they says everything's equal, it is. If they say put down the guns, that's what's going to happen. Because I'm gonna get old, I'm gone, and they take over. So we really focus on the younger people. And everything is one human race. Our youth president, Manuel Camacho, is bisexual, and we love him no different. One human race. So we brought some of our young people, and one thing I love about Proud Academy is in New Haven, that's my city. I love New Haven. I want to bring our youth, young adult now, vice president, who's pansexual, to do a poem for you, Catherine Wicks.
Hi. This doesn't have a title, unfortunately, but you guys could call it whatever you want. Growing up, I learned the hard way that life is everyone stuck in one box. A labeled box full of what people call the norm or what's acceptable or what is supposed to be. If you dared to step out of that box, you basically became everyone's like #1 enemy, like 90% of the planet. And it feels like the whole world is against you and no one will stand with you or have your back. But I had learned to live with that. I learned that I can stand on my own. I would rather live true to myself than be miserable of being someone I'm not. And I hope for others that, you get the support you need that I barely got. So don't be afraid, live happy, ignore the people that try to take your happiness away, and be unapologetic about it because you are who you are, born that way or not, live your truth. The world was unforgiving not too long ago for those who were ridiculed or tormented by closed-minded, arrogant, or ignorant people, or whatever the case may be. I see you because you are strong, and never forget that. Those battles that you think you may have lost, you won because here we are. Here you are, and I see you, and I accept you, and I love you with all my heart. And because you may be different from me, I'm open-minded to view your world point of view and your way of living or the way you love. So where I'm going with this is, being different is a blessing and kind of a curse, full of ups and downs, lefts and rights, and you may not know which way to go or what path to take. And amongst all the confusion and chaos or uncertainty, you have people who would rather kick you while you're down than help you figure it out and find your way. But throw away the worst part of it and live and love better with the other half, which is being yourself. And we should all have a safe space to be different and be accepted. And the LGBTQ+ community should be no different from that.
And I just wanted to say this. Could everyone just hold yourself and just say, I'm gonna be myself and I'm gonna be happy. Just do it. I'm gonna be myself and I'm gonna be happy.
How you doing? I'm Javion Hines. I also go by Honest, and I'm gonna be singing in the cell tonight. I hope you guys enjoy. In the still of the night, I held you tight. Oh, I love you so. Promise I'll never let you go. In the still of the night, in the still of the night, I remember that night in May when the stars were bright up above. Oh, I hope and I pray to keep your precious love. So before the night, hold me again with all of your might. In the still of the night, in the still of the night.
Now we have Celeste Lacine, our keynote speaker. So for more than 30 years, Celeste Lacine has been telling stories as a playwright, actor, screenwriter, author, and producer. The New York Times ranked him among the most talented solo performers of his or any generation. Celeste is an off-Broadway veteran. He made their Broadway debut in 2012, performing the role of Dick Jensen in The Best Man, which also starred James Earl Jones, Angela Lansbury, Sybil Shepherd, and Eric McCormick. Celeste wrote the short film Trevor, which won an Academy Award for Best Live Action Short. In 1998, Celeste co-founded the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is the only nationwide 24-hour crisis intervention lifeline for LGBTQ youth. They saved thousands of lives. Celeste is also the co-founder and artistic director of the Future Perfect Project, a national arts initiative dedicated to amplifying the voices of LGBTQ youth and broadcasting their vision by sharing their stories in performances, musical, composition, and original writing. We are also blessed at Proud Academy that we have a partnership with Celeste because they will come to Proud Academy and put on a week's worth of workshops and amplify the voices of our Proud Academy youth. The amazing Celeste Lacine.
Hi, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here. And thank you, Patty, for inviting me. And you know, I've had such a varied and exciting life, but I tell you, there is nothing better than being in a room with good people dedicated to a worthy cause. And I just love what we're doing here tonight, is actually creating the future. So I just want to start by saying that I'm so honored to be here amongst you and to be able to see what you're all doing. So the poet E.E. Cummings once wrote, "To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you into somebody else, and to make you into everybody else, means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight, and to never stop fighting." And tonight, I just think it's so great at this event, there are so many young people here showing us what it looks like to be nobody but yourself. And so I was wondering if maybe we could just take a moment and maybe some of you would be willing to stand up so we can actually appreciate you. I love it. I go to so many of these events and you're never there. And they're all talking about you, but here you are, and it's so wonderful. And if anybody asks, you're the reason that we're here tonight. So as you could probably tell from my bio, I tell stories. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. And way back in the 20th century, I told a story about my 13-year-old self. I called myself Trevor. I started performing that story on stage in a show called Word of Mouth. And that story then became an Academy Award-winning film, and that film inspired the founding of the Trevor Project. And for 25 years, this is the 25th anniversary of the Trevor Project this year, and for 25 years, they've been saving young lives, but also giving young people their first opportunity to actually become the protagonist of their own story, to begin to actually tell their own story. I believe that being able to tell your own personal story is a human right. And one of the ways that we exercise that right is by learning how to tell our stories from the inside out. And by that I mean, rather than being defined by our history, or our parents, by the culture, or by institutions and structures that exist outside of ourselves, we can, if we are brave, define ourselves. The queer community is particularly good at this. We've had to be, because for way too long, we've had to live with the burden of other people telling our stories for us. But about 7 years ago, I began to notice a new story being told by this current generation of queer youth. At the time, I was touring the country with a solo show, and as usual, visiting high school GSAs and LGBTQ centers, but the young people I was meeting were somehow different from anything that I'd ever seen before, and not just the way they looked. They were confident, well-informed about the world. They had a social justice component that just wasn't usual in people so young. They were offering one another support and encouragement, sharing information, and quietly building a queer new world without anyone's permission. To my eye, they seemed like a whole new iteration of our species. Now, I've always considered myself to be kind of on the front lines of queer issues, but suddenly I was having to play catch up. These young people, some here tonight, they were challenging my assumptions about gender and sexuality, showing me next level authenticity, expanding my understanding of what a pronoun could do. They even caused me to question my own identity, change my pronouns, and my name. I was so intrigued by what was going on that I called up my friend Ryan Amador, fellow artist, and I suggested that we go find out if this quiet revolution was happening everywhere. And so Ryan and I started the Future Perfect Project, a national arts initiative that travels the country, providing queer youth with the tools, the space, and the encouragement to tell their stories, to sing their songs, create visual art, poetry, dance, theater, spoken word, and animations. The good news, it was happening everywhere, even in places like Arkansas and Alabama. And the more we traveled, the more we came to realize that the self-expression of LGBTQ plus youth is a declaration of a better future for us all. Because where queer youth are being valued, everyone's doing better. And I urge you to go to the Future Perfect Project website and check out some of the creative output of these young people that we work with. It's just actual proof that if given the right environment, young people can do more than just survive. They can actually thrive. And this is why I feel so passionately about a school like Proud Academy. Every child deserves to learn in an environment that not only affirms their existence, but also celebrates and amplifies every aspect of their experience. And this is not just a Connecticut thing. I think we all want Proud Academies to be all over the country. To the young people here tonight, I want to urge you to begin to tell your story. Tell us what it's like to be you. Write it down, draw it, speak it, sing it. Live it as loud and proud as you possibly can, and begin to beat a path from the private world inside yourself to the outside world. We want to know you. We need to hear from you. Because first of all, no one like you has ever existed in the whole entire history of the universe, and it would be a shame to miss this one-time event that you are. And secondly, if enough of you insist on being yourselves, if you continue to just say gay, no matter what anyone says, then the world will come to understand that you are a force to be reckoned with, and one that will not be silenced. Remember, all the great social justice movements of the 20th century were started by young people between the ages of 14 and 24, and this is your time. But you don't need me to remind you that there are people out there who are not so comfortable with this idea of you being your big, fabulous, visible, outspoken self. And sooner or later, some random kid, some uncle, some cousin, parent, preacher, or politician will tell you that who you are, or who you hope to be, is impossible, wrong, immoral, dangerous, misguided, or just plain stupid. Maybe you've had run-ins with these people or heard them on the news. Maybe you've had to stand up to them and resist their efforts to disappear you. These are the people who object to the labels you choose to describe yourself, but then in the next breath saddle you with definitions and labels of their own, labels that fit you not at all. You'll recognize them because they love to use the simple side-eye glance to make you question your whole entire life. They will try to limit your self-expression, they organize to keep you from receiving the care you deserve, and they work overtime to ban the books that affirm the person you are or the person you might one day become. In an effort to make you into something they can understand and control, they claim you are a phase, a fad, or a failure at being yourself. But here's the thing to remember. They're wrong. You are not a phase, or a fad, or a failure. You are, in fact, the future. And how do I know this? Because once upon a time, I was the future. When I was your age, homosexuality was considered a crime, a sin, and a mental disease. This was the world that I grew up in. I wasn't more than 5 years old when I began to first sense that the world was opposed to the person I was at heart. The signs and signals were everywhere, and yet for some reason I never believed what I was being told about gay people because they were talking about me, about my heart, and about the way that I was inclined to love. And no way was I a criminal or a sinner or crazy, or at least not in that way. I was an ambassador from a future that hadn't yet arrived, and love was my passport. 50 years later, that future has arrived, and here you are. Beautiful, bright, and boldly being yourselves in a world that would prefer you were like everybody else. You are living proof to so many of us who came before that it does indeed get better. But as you go about your business of being your big, bold, beautiful selves, please keep in mind that you are also terrifying. Terrifying because your courage to say yes to who you are is a painful reminder to some that they've fallen down on the only real job they have in this world, which is to be themselves. And so their only defense is to try to shut you down, to take your rights away, to tell your own story, or worse, attempt to tell it for you. And so again, I say to you, tell your story. Keep telling it. Tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling. We need to hear from you, and we want to know. Oh, and if anyone should object to this DIY approach to you becoming your big S self, remind them politely but firmly that every one of us has the right to create our own life according to our heart's desire. And if they still don't get it, inform them that you can't hear them because you're busy right now listening to what your heart is saying. Just before the pandemic, the Future Perfect Project visited a middle school, GSA, in Kentucky. I know, we were astounded. Not only that there was a middle school GSA, in Kentucky, but also the students were so confident about being themselves, so unafraid, so determined to celebrate their queerness at such a young age and in such an unaccepting environment. We asked them, but how is it that you're so sure of who you are? And without skipping a beat, one of them, a 6th grader, replied, your heart just tells you, and you obey. This is how we are as queer people. This is how we change the world. We listen to our hearts, and we obey. And is there any better way to live than that? Urvashi Vaid was a fierce lesbian lawyer and social activist who fought tirelessly for our LGBT rights. And sadly, Urvashi died last year. But she once said, I have long believed that what made the LGBT movement irresistible was its honesty. Truth may be unpleasant, unpopular, and sometimes unbearable to speak, but its power is undeniable. Telling the truth about desire was and still remains revolutionary in a world built upon its control and repression. So, my friends, let's be revolutionaries. Let's continue to tell the truth about who we are every chance we get. Let's tell our stories loud and super proud to our friends, to our families, to anyone who listen, even to people who won't listen. Let's be irresistible. Let's dare to change the world by showing them what it looks like to be nobody but ourselves. Thank you so much for having me.
If you're young and queer and you're listening to this, take the last hour as proof that you can have the life you want. You can be a teacher, a poet, an athlete, a singer, a lawyer, a storyteller, state treasurer, or president of a university. Find your community, find your mentors, find the support that you deserve. This is Claire McCarthy, and this has been Transqat. Thanks for listening. Let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece. Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved. Join us on the web at transqat.com. That's TRANSQAT.com. There, you'll find links to Transqat, the blog, writing projects, speaking engagements, and more. You can also meet the team who thought spelling cat with a Q was a good idea. Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Leave us a comment on whatever platform you use to stream this podcast. Just remember to be kind. She has enough self-esteem problems already. To reach Claire with a question or a suggestion for an upcoming episode, just use the contact page at the website or email her directly at crmtransqat@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.